getting the early medieval period, we need to access some of the kingdoms, some of the dynasties which are very important or playing a major important role in developing the medieval period. Okay, so without wasting any single movement, let me first introduce with our timeline, because as like every time I say that first in history you should go with according to the timeline, that is eventual management. After that you need to be very sure about the geographical locations. Considering the events and the geographical locations, you would be very well friendly with the in-depth subject like history. Okay, so when we were talking about 2500 BC, we were generally talking about Indus Valley civilization, right? During that Indus Valley civilization, we have seen how a man got civilized, how man got urbanized with different commodities, how they traded, how they started with the barter system and everything. After that, we have seen that it was a Vedic age or Vedic period which was divided into the early and the later period. Okay, now this was followed right from 1500 BC to 600 BC, right? And during the same period, I mean during the same later Vedic period, we have seen that the emergence of Janpadas will take place. Now once the Janpadas were being evolving, okay, we'll see that this Janpadas will be eventually converted into Mahajanpadas. We have also studied the 4 major Mahajanapadas which were most powerful, and among this the Magad became, or Magad arose as one of the most strongest kingdom of Mahajanapadas. Okay, so here we had also discussed about Mahajanapadas, right? Now we had a separate discussion why Magad was only considered as the major Mahajanapada. Okay, now the major reason behind why Magad was one of the most strongest region. Now why am I again summarizing this? See friends, there are major of the threads which would be again relating it to the medieval period in upcoming lectures. Okay, so here you need to be very sure, crystal clear about the ancient history. Okay, so I am again snatching those threads so that you would be understanding in the upcoming story. Okay, so here the Magad empire became one of the most powerful empire in the ancient history. Why? Because of the iron technology. Okay, first iron technology, and secondly the development of the socio-cultural activities. Okay, so we had a separate discussion on this, but here you need to be very careful about the iron technology. Okay, so due to the iron technology, we saw that the agricultural production increased at a faster pace. After that, the sources of revenue had also increased, and both of this led to the power struggle. Okay, both of this led to the power struggle. Okay, so here we'll see that after the Magad empire, okay, in the Magad city, in the capital of the Magad, we saw that many of the powers came and went. Okay, so here most and the major one of the power was the Mauryan empire. Okay, so here we had also studied about the Mauryan empire, right? And we went up till the Gupta period and the post-Gupta period, of course. Okay, but here when we were talking about the post-Gupta period, we were talking nearly about 6 BC. Okay, we were talking up till 6 BC. And why we are talking about the 6th BC about the ancient India? Because you see the development of the history with respect to the ancient India would be revolving from 2500 to 6th BC, which we have already discussed. But here you need to take some of the understanding that after the 600 BC, now if you refer to many of the text and the reference books, after it is said that the medieval part or the medieval history started after 8th to 9th century. Okay, of course in some of the text it is being said that it started from 7th AD. Okay, no, it's not BC, it's AD. Okay, it started after 7th AD, it started after 6th AD, but what it is in our syllabus is from the 8th AD. Okay, 8th or 9th AD. Okay, so here once you are very well confirmed about the 6th AD, okay, so right from that is 6th BC, okay, 6th BC to 6th AD is the major peak of the ancient history. But after the 6th AD, after the 6th century or near about the 6th century, right from the 4th century to the 8th century, there is a mixture of many of the independent kingdoms. What am I saying? Right from 4th century up to the 8th century, there is mixture, okay, there is a mixture of many kingdoms and many dynasties, which makes major confusion for the students. Okay, now many these kingdoms had major of the interconnections. They have their contemporary activities, either they have war in between them, or either they have family relationship, either they have beti roti ka rishta, whatever might be. But there were many of the contemporary dynasties, kingdoms during this period. Okay, so here you should not get confused in this timelines. Okay, now here when we talk about the geography, okay, when we talk about the geography of Indian subcontinent during the ancient history, I have told you that Magad was here, right? Okay, so here we have seen the Mauryan, post-Mauryan period. We have also seen the Gupta period. Okay, we have also seen the invasion of Indo-Greek, Parthians and Shakas. Okay, after that we have also seen Western Kshatraps, है ना? Okay, we have also seen Tamilian kingdoms with respect to Chera. Okay, with respect to Chola and with respect to Pandya, right? After that, in the previous chapter, we have also seen that there were Satavahanas in the Deccan, right? After that, we have also seen that there was Kalinga as an independent kingdom, okay, or also we call them as a Kharvelas. Okay, we also call them as a Kharvelas. Okay, in some text it would be called as a Kharvelas, in some text it would be called as Kalinga. So never get confused among this. Okay, now all this were the contemporary of each other. Now see, we are moving forward now. Okay, in last session we have seen that those were Satavahanas who were the contemporary of Chera, Chola, Pandya. Okay, but at that time they didn't existed completely or independently. Okay, Satavahanas were the earlier. After Satavahanas there came the Chera, Chola, Pandya, and after Chera, Chola, Pandya became more matured. Okay, you will see that in the Deccan region there came Chalukyas. Okay, there came Chalukyas. Okay, so in the Deccan, now we saw that Satavahanas were majorly from the Paithan region in the Maharashtra, right? But when we talk about the Chalukyas, they were not in the Maharashtra majorly, but they were in the Karnataka region. Of course, they had continued their supremacy in the Maharashtrian region also, no doubt in that. But the capital city, okay, the capital city of Satavahanas was the Paithan. Okay, but during the Chalukya, the capital city became the Badami. Okay, now where is this Badami city? Badami city is in Bijapur district. It is in Bijapur district. Now where is Bijapur district? In the present day Karnataka. Okay, so here the Bijapur became or the Bijapur district, especially with respect to the Badami city, became the major capital of Chalukyas. Okay. Moving forward, we also see that many of the reference books, whether NCERT, whether higher reference books, or with respect to all kind of NCERT, whether it is state board reference books, common reference books or whether it is NCERT. Okay, so we'll see that these Chalukyas are divided into Eastern and the Western. Okay, so of course the initial capital was the Badami only, but in the latter stage, due to the power struggle, we'll see that there is a division between the Chalukyas. Now there would be the Western Chalukyas and there would be Eastern Chalukyas. Eastern Chalukya was the latter phase, and after that the Western Chalukyas. Okay, so here we'll see that the Eastern Chalukya would be having a good kind of a war-like situation with the Cholas. Of course, they would be also sharing some of the matrilineal relations with the Chalukyas. Okay, after that both of this would be having relations. Both of this means Chalukyas and the Cholas would be having a good kind or good amount of relation with the Sri Lanka. Okay, so from here we come to know that they also had the enmity, they also had the familiar relations with respect to the different reigns. Okay, now when we talk about the Sri Lanka, okay, we majorly emphasize on the Buddhist architecture. Okay, so here it is the Coromandel coast. It is Coromandel coast. Coromandel coast, which tells most about the Chalukyas and the Chola relations, especially with respect to some of the Dravidian style architecture, some of the Buddhist architecture, some kind of Vesara style architecture also. Like for example, we have Aihole temple, we have in fact the Shore temple. Okay, so these are the temples, but beyond that we also have different kinds of inscriptions, cave like inscriptions, where we come to know about all this. Now when we are talking about the art and culture, okay, when we are talking about the art and culture with respect to the Chalukyas, of course we would be studying in a very depth way, but as just a general idea before getting into the in-depth lecture, just get warm with some of the important summaries. Okay, so when we study about the Chalukya, okay, we majorly get the sources from the art and architecture, and majorly through the temple architecture. Now when we talk about the temple architecture, there are two kinds of temple architecture. Okay, now as we are talking about the ancient history, okay, as we are talking about the ancient history, we are talking about the rock cut temple architecture. Right now, of course, you might be knowing what is rock cut temple architecture. Okay, it is a single cave through which a temple is being carved out. Okay, so here it would be cave, okay, and there would be some small entry, and here there would be some figurines and everything which would be sculpted, and some of the major events or the major happenings would be talked on these walls, okay, or communicated on these walls. After this, there is a second kind of temple architecture which is known as a structured temple architecture. Structured temple architecture. Now, why am I telling this to you at the initial phase of this Chalukya only? Because this makes something interesting about this history, okay. Now, after the Chalukya, you will see that we would be every time seeing the structured temple architecture. Okay, in the last time when we were discussing about the Satavahanas, we have talked about the Amravati school of painting, Amravati school of arts. Okay, but when we are discussing about the Chalukyas or upcoming powers, we would be majorly talking about the structured temple architecture. Okay, now the time frame of rock cut temple architecture will go and the structured temple architecture ka era will come. Okay, now what is structured temple architecture? It is the mixture of different styles. Secondly, it is not being carved out from the single stone. Okay, like the stone of the roof would be different. Okay, the stone of the plinth would be different. The foundational pillars would be different. Okay, so for conclusion is it is not being carved out from the single rock. Okay, so here these are the structured temple architectures which would be getting evolved during this period. okay, which would be getting evolved during this period. Okay. So let us start with our in-depth session, but before that let's see the significance of the topic. Okay, so Chalukyas, okay, Chalukyas is one of the important topic with respect to your UPSC preliminary examination. Now just see this question: with reference to the Chalukya temple architecture, consider the following statement. Chalukyas were the first in the Deccan to use the soft sandstone temple construction. Deccan to use the this statement has been again repeated. Okay, so Chalukyas were the first in the Deccan to use the soft sandstone temple construction. Okay, then after that the Aihole is primarily known for the cave temples, of course, whereas the Patadakkal is also known for the structural temples, of course, right? Virupaksha temple at the Patadakkal was built by the queen, right? Virupaksha temple at Patadakkal was built by the queen, okay, Lohama Devi, to commemorate the victory over the Kanchipuram. So which of the following statement is right? So we'll complete everything of the above. Okay, after that, who of the following rulers advised his subject throughout the inscription? Okay, whoever praises his religion, sect, or blame other sect out of the excessive devotion to his own sect with the view of glorifying his own sect, he rather injures his own sect very severely. Okay, so this is of course Ashoka. So here we have the contemporary legends, okay, of the Chalukyas. Fine. Now if we want to see the geographical location of the Chalukyas, now majorly we are talking about the history of the 6th century to the 8th century. Okay, so this is Chalukyas. Okay, now see, they would be extending up till the Kaveri river. Okay, of course the capital is below the Krishna river, and the Godavari, the region above the Godavari, has been also acquired by this Chalukyas. Okay, now see the contemporaries. Contemporaries are Pallavas, Cheras, of course Cholas also, and Pandyas also. Pallavas we are going to study after this, because Pallavas were the contemporary of Chalukyas, but they came later. Okay, first it was Chalukyas, and after that the Pallavas. After that we also have the later Guptas or the post Gupta phase. After that Maitrakas and the western Kshatraps. Okay, and here Pushyabhuti Sunga, and in fact the Shunga dynasty was being present in the north side. Okay, so this was the contemporary phase of Chalukya period. Now when we talk about the Chalukya, okay, so they were the dominant powers in the Deccan region, okay, right from the 6th to 8th century, which marked a significant period in the Indian ancient history. Okay, so this Badami cave inscription of the Magalasa gives us much of the evidences. Badami cave inscription in Karnataka, in present day Karnataka, gives major of the Mangalesa. Okay, after that the Kappe Aryabhatta record of 700. Now this is the text. Okay, this is the Tamil text. Okay, which resembles the evidences of Chalukya. After that, Vedavaguru inscription of Pulakesin II. Now Pulakesin II is one of the important ruler of Chalukyas. Okay, before him the Pulakesin I had also defeated many of the rulers, contemporary rulers of the Pallavas also, and of the post-Gupta period also. Okay, after that the Kanchi Kailashnath inscription also resembles. Now beyond this Kanchi Kailash, now what is Kanchi? Kanchi is the main capital, okay, main capital of Pallavas. So Pallavas were residing in Kanchi. Present day we call it as a Kanchipuram. Okay, so this is the same city. Kanchipuram is the same city which was the capital of Pallavas. Fine. So the inscription in the capital city of the Pallavas denotes that how strong were the Chalukyas during this phase. After that, Patadakkal Virupaksha temple. Beyond this, we also have Aihole temples and many of the, like Shore temple at the sea coast, what I talked just now, at the Coromandel coast, makes many of the evidences of the Chalukyan dynasty. Okay. So the Pulakesin I is a major founder. In fact, according to the reference material which we get from the Tamil Nadu NCRT, and in fact the government sources also says that the Pulakesin I is the founder of Chalukyan dynasty. Of course, there were some of the minor kings or the rulers who were ruling over this Chalukya period, but here after this we'll see that the Chalukya reign would be having a good elaborative and expansionist policies after the Pulakesin I. So the Chalukyan rule, okay, was being said to be called as the descendants of the Ganga dynasty. Now, what is Ganga dynasty? Ganga dynasty is related to the North India, especially from the Awadh region. Have you heard the word Surya Vansham? Okay, Surya Vansham. Okay, so they are the people from the Ganga dynasty. In some of the reference books, Chalukyas are also called as one of the descendants from this Ganga dynasties. But yes, it's only in the epic stories and not in the government sources. Okay, so if you have been asked about the origin of Chalukyas, it is just the Deccan region and not the Ganga. Okay, so officially if asked, okay, of course it won't be asked in the preliminary examination, not in that detail, because it is not given in the government evidences or the references. Okay, so here it marks the major cultural contribution. Okay, it marks the major cultural contribution with respect to the ancient history. Why? Because just now I have told you that it shifted from the singular rock cut architecture to the structural temple architecture, and that is why it has a major cultural contribution. Secondly, it was a time when the Deccan saw many of the political meetings only in the temples. Okay, so this was a cultural and political shift only happened after the Satavahanas and the Chalukyas. Okay, so this is the figurine of the Pulakesin. Okay, Pulakesin I, one of the founder, in fact the significant founder of the Chalukyas. So you can see it is in the form of Varaha. Okay, now what is Varaha? It is the incarnation of the Lord Vishnu. So this is Varaha, okay, Varaha avatar. So you can see how the king was referred by the people. Okay, king was referred by the people as one of the Dut from the god, as a one of the messenger, or as a one of the protector who is sent by the god. Okay, so Pulakesin I was being referred to as the god. So you can analyze the belief system which was being promoted during the Chalukyas. Fine. Now this led to some of the understanding of the belief system during that period, that they were majorly Vaishnavite. Okay, of course there were Shaivites, but in the latter phase. Okay, like for example in the Shore temple you will find the lingas being present. Okay, but in the latter period, not in the initial period. In the initial period, especially during the Pulakesin I, In fact, at the starting phase of Pulakesin II also, you will see they were majorly the contributors of Vaishnavite. Of course, there are also some of the stories that will resemble that this kings followed majorly the Jainism, especially the Pulakesin II. After that, he switched to the Brahmanical mode, okay, or especially with respect to Shaivism, okay. So, of course, there are many stories, but according to the historical reference material which we are supposed to refer, okay, here we would be talking about only some minor stories and not in detail stories, okay. Now, when we talk about the Pulakesin I, okay, so who was the Pulakesin? He was the real founder of the Chalukyan dynasty. Now, he is considered as a real founder, okay. It's not that he was the very first person. Okay, now why he was called as a real founder? Because he had defeated Kadambas. Okay, after Satavahanas, it were Kadambas who were working or ruling as a governors in that Deccan region. Okay, so after the Kadambas, after defeating Kadambas, so how the Chalukyas were related with the Kadambas? The Chalukyas were the feudatories of the Kadambas. Okay, so after defeating the Kadambas, Pulakesin I expanded his territory and in fact from Godavari to the Krishna river, and after that they expanded in the south as well and in the north as well up till the Madhya Pradesh, in fact above the Indore region, in the present day Indore region. Okay, so he had many of the titles. Okay, what were the titles? Satyashraya, Vallabha and Dharma Maharaja. So you can also see in the title he is being called as a Vallabha. What is Vallabha? Again, a second name to the Lord Vishnu. Okay, so here also you can see the belief system that the people had been going through. In fact, they have also presented in the inscriptions. Okay, now when we are talking about the Aihole inscription, okay, whenever we are talking about the Chalukyas, we are majorly having the source or the references from the Aihole inscriptions. Now this Aihole sites consist of two kinds of temples. One are the cave-like temples, cutted from the single rock cut carved out as a single rock cut architecture, and the second is the structured temple. Now the structured temple is a combination of both of them. First Dravidian style and second the Vesara style. Okay, now when you see the map of India, okay, in the south you have Dravidian style of architecture. Okay, in the Deccan region or in majorly the Maharashtra and the Karnataka region, you will find the Vesara style of architecture. Okay, and in the north you will have Nagara style of architecture. Okay, now just don't get confused in this Naga word, okay, because this is also a tribe which was being present in the Sri Lanka. Okay, because whenever we are going to study about the Pallavas are considered as one of the descendants of this Naga tribe. Okay, so don't get confused in this Naga word. If we are talking about art and architecture, we are talking about the Nagara style. Okay, but when we are talking about the tribes, we are talking about the South India when we are talking about the Naga tribe. Of course, in the present day, Naga tribes are also present in the northeastern region. But when we are talking about the ancient Indian history, Naga tribes are majorly from the Ceylon. Okay, Ceylon. Sri Lanka that time used to be called as a Ceylon. Okay, so the Ceylon had the Naga tribes which had a good connection with the Cholas and the Pallavas, also with the Chalukyas, but very limited. Okay, so here the Naga tribes were the one who had a good relation with the Sri Lankans. Okay, now after this, the second king is the Kirtivarman. Okay, the second king is the Kirtivarman or the Kirtivarman I. Of course, there was Kirtivarman II also, but in the latter stage, which was one of the weaker ruler. Okay, but the Kirtivarman I was one of the most, able ruler. Okay, so he completed the subjugation of the Kadambas. Okay, whatever the Pulakesin I was unable to expand in his whole lifetime. Okay, Kirtivarman had done it in a single go. Okay. After that, the extension of Chalukyan kingdom happened and he annexed the Goa. Now, why did he annex the Goa? Because it was firstly a port city. It was a port city. Again, it was a good source of revenue. Now, the spices were being traded from the Goa port. Okay. So here you will see that the Badami would be having a good amount of less distance. Okay, like for example, this is the Krishna river. Okay, this is the Krishna river. Here it is Badami, right? And here it is Goa. Okay, so here the distance is quite less. Okay, so Goa was to be acquired by the Kirtivarman I. Okay, so that is why he acquired Goa, which was known as the Revati Pipa, okay, during that time. Now, after they got a good hold, okay, after that they got a good hold over the economical situation, okay, and hence they started to more concentrating upon the art, culture and the other economical activities. So whenever you will see the development of any kind of kingdom or the dynasty, firstly they would be talking about, or firstly they would be putting the efforts in the political scenario. Secondly, they would be having the expansionist policy, and after that they would be having a good economical revenue, and eventually they will be concentrating upon the art and architecture. So this is a common flow where each and every dynasty will go. Okay, so Kirtivarman I, okay, consolidated the Kadamba, okay, the unacquired Kadamba, okay, and also acquired the Goa. Okay, after that it was a time of the Pulakesin II. Okay, so the Pulakesin II is the major hero of the Chalukyan kingdom. Okay, so it is one of the greatest. Now whenever we are talking about the Kirtivarman, okay, we also get many of the inscriptions right from the Badami inscription also. Okay, we get major sources from the Badami inscription also. After that it is the Pulakesin II. So the Pulakesin was one of the greatest of all Badami Chalukya kings. Okay, so the Aihole inscription, okay, which is majorly reflecting the Prakrit Sanskrit language also and some of the Kannadi language also. Okay, so the Kannadi language during that time was quite different. First it is Sanskrit. Why? Because they are majorly following the Vedic culture. Okay, so whenever they are following the Vedic culture, now what do I mean? Vedic culture, that is a king having Ashwamedh Yajna, Yajnas, 5 Yajnas, major 5 Yajnas. Okay, so all this were being followed by the Chalukyan kings. Okay, so they were majorly tilted towards the Brahmanism. Okay, but here you will also see that they were quite tolerant regarding the other religions. Okay, so first you will see the inscription in the Sanskrit. Secondly, you will see the inscription in the Prakrit. And after that, you will also see the inscription in the Kannada literature also. So, Kannada is majorly about the literature, not about the inscription. Okay, if we are talking about the inscription, we have Sanskrit and the Prakrit. Okay, with respect to the Chalukyas. Okay, now these inscriptions are at the rock cut architecture also and at the structural temples also. Majorly the structural temple will be denoting the sculptures. Okay, more than the inscription. Okay, but the rock cut architecture would be having a good amount of content being written on the walls, cave walls. Okay, so here the Sanskrit was being a major language, okay, used by the court poet Ravi Kirti. Okay, now who was the Ravi Kirti? He was a poet. He was an intellectual poet in the court of Pulakesin II. Okay, now Ravi Kirti would be talking of the major invasions made by the Pulakesin II. Okay, Pulakesin II would be making invasions in the Pallava dynasty also. In fact, he would be winning those wars. Again, he would be also getting defeated by some of the later Pallava kings also. Okay, so in this way you will see there are wars also, and after that they would be also having the marital relationships with the Pallava dynasty. Okay, so here the Ravi Kirti would be talking everything about his king. His king means the Pulakesin II, about his relations. In fact, Hyun Sung, the Chinese traveler Hyun Sung, also talks about major of the evidences of the progress and the development which Pulakesin II made during his reign. Okay, what does the Chinese traveler say? Chinese traveler Hyun Sung says that he had major of the trade relations with the Ceylon. After that, he'll also say the art and architecture, the cultural, the societal, elements flourished during this period, during the Pulakesin II period. Okay, so not only the Indian poets, but also the foreign travelers will be also talking about this king. Okay, after that, okay, so they would be having the hold on the Kadambas of Banavasi. So yesterday in the last session I have told you who were the Banavasis. Okay, they were at the western frontiers, okay, in the southwestern frontiers. Okay, and the Gangas of the Mysore. Okay, after that they defeated the Harshavardhana on the banks of Narmada. So while they were acquiring for the Madhya Pradesh, okay, while they were going above the Indore, present day Indore, okay, they had conquered or they had defeated the Harshavardhana also. In the south they had defeated Pallavas, and in the north they have defeated the Harshavardhana. So Pulakesin II marks as one of the most important contributor for the progress of the Chalukya dynasty. I mean every kind of progress, political progress, economical progress, art and cultural progress, every kind of progress. After that you will see that once the Pulakesin II is one of the most stronger ruler of the Chalukyan dynasty, you will see that his descendants, that is Vikramaditya, would be also one of the most powerful king during that period. Okay, now here you can see through the image itself how Vikramaditya has been sculpted by the sculptures. Okay, see the behind scene, okay, there is a sun. It means they are Suryavanshi. They are being denoted themselves as a Suryavanshi. Okay, after that see the figurines that are being depicted over here. Okay, so it tells majorly about how rich was the revenue collection during that period. Okay, so you can see all the ornaments that have been worn in the neck. Okay, you can also see the ornaments on the Singhasan itself. Okay, so here you can see the revenue condition was quite good during Vikramaditya. So it was only because of Pulakesin II who worked very properly, who worked very concentratively for the expansion of the Chalukyas. Okay, now after this the Vikramaditya, okay, again restored the power of Chalukyas, okay, by again getting the defeated area by the Pallavas. Okay, so again there was a war during the Vikramaditya also, Pulakesin II also. Okay, after that the consolidated Chalukya kingdom, okay, they consolidated Chalukya kingdom by plundering the Kanchipuram. Now, which was the Kanchipuram? The capital city of Pallavas, Kanchi. Okay, so after that the Vikramaditya continued his enmity with the Narsimhavarman. Now, who was the Narsimhavarman? He was the king of the Pallava. Okay, Narsimhavarman's son's successor Mahendravarman II, and later with his son Parmeshma Varman. Okay, so all these Varmans would be having the wars with the Chalukyas. Okay, so after having war, they get tired with all this war, and they say, let's have a good kind of friendship, let's have family relations. Up till when we will fight, hai na? So all this will turn into the friendly relation, it will turn into the marital relations. Okay, but you see, for 5 to 6 generations they had war with the Pallavas. Okay, same goes with the above regions. Okay, Harshavardhana, Western Kshatraps. Okay, and after that you will see that the triple war struggle begins. Okay, triple war struggle begins. Now the next is the Kirtivarman II. Okay, now he was the last important ruler. I don't say he was the last ruler, but he was the last important ruler of the Chalukyas. Okay, he was being defeated by the Danti Durga. Okay, now who was the Danti Durga? He was the founder of Rashtrakuta dynasty. Okay, now this Rashtrakuta would be expanded up till the Kannauj. Now if you have been heard or you have not been heard, anyways we'll be completing all this tripartite struggle. Okay, so this is the Kannauj. Okay, in the last up till the post Gupta period, we saw that the Magad region was a heroic region. Okay, in each of the story. Okay, whoever has conquered this Pataliputra, city of Pataliputra in the present day Bihar, was supposed to be as a more powerful king, okay, in the whole Indian subcontinent. But here the history would be shifting. Okay, I'm saying in the initial phase only I have said that the Chalukyas would be marking the shift from ancient to medieval period. Okay, so here once the Rashtrakutas come into existence, they would be concentrating over the Kannauj region. Now why did they concentrated upon the Kannauj region? Because it was on the Gangetic plain. Okay, secondly, a very fertile land, right? Availability of water, availability of the iron technology there. Okay, so I have been talking about the timeline, and during that I have said you how iron technology played an important role in development of the Mahajanapadas, right? So here the Kannauj became as the epicenter of the struggles between the different parts of the regions. Now not only Rashtrakutas concentrated on the Kannauj, but here you will see the Palas would be also concentrating upon the Kannauj region, and from above the this Rajasthan Gujarat region would be also concentrating upon this Kannauj city. So all of the three of them would be having the power struggle on the single capital. Of course we would be covering, but in the early medieval age. Presently we are covering the ancient India. That story is also quite interesting, but let's cover the present story. Okay, so here the Kirtivarman II, okay, lost in the hands of Rashtrakuta dynasty, or especially the Danti Durga. Okay, Danti Durga had a very furiously fought with this Kirtivarman. Now many of the historical text resembles the facial expressions of Danti Durga, how rude he was. Okay, so it's about the stories and the poems. It's not about our subject or the syllabus, but you can understand how what we call it as a person who has the economical point of view plus a political point of view, and he majorly tries to capture the whole region very specifically with these two goals. Okay, so here the Kannauj region, that is why we'll see that the Kannauj region fight would be being shifted the whole history of Indian subcontinent again. Now during the Mauryan period, during the Gupta period, we were talking about the northern region. Okay, the same region which was present in the Gangetic Valley. Okay, now before that we were talking about the Indus Valley civilization. Now see the shift of the history. Okay, at the beginning we were talking about the Indus Valley civilization. After that we came to the Ganga Valley civilization. After that we came with the Kaveri Valley civilization. After that the Krishna, Godavari. Okay, and again we are going to the Ganga system. See the evolution of the history. It is being going through the river systems. Okay, the civilization, how enriched civilization was. Okay, here the revenue system was quite strong. Here the art and architecture was quite strong. Okay, here the power struggle was quite strong. Okay, and in this way we'll see that the shift of history is quite interesting in all those areas. Okay, if you have taken a quite good interest in the stories, you will understand how each of the civilization will play an important role in the progress of mankind. Okay.